January 17, 1942. The North Atlantic is a gray expanse of frost and fog. Waves slam against steel hulls, carrying the bitter bite of winter across endless miles of ocean. Convoy HX-156 plows forward, a fragile line of merchant ships escorted by corvettes and destroyers, their decks slick with ice. At the gun stations, black sailors move with disciplined precision, eyes scanning the misty horizon. Every creak of the ship, every distant whistle of wind could mask the deadly approach of a German U-boat. The Atlantic is a vast theater of invisible enemies, where a single torpedo can scatter months of supplies and lives in seconds. Somewhere beneath the dark waters, the enemy waits. Yet these sailors, often overlooked and underestimated, will become a nightmare for the Axis, their courage and skill tipping the balance of the ocean war. By early 1942, the Atlantic had become the lifeline of the Allied war effort. Britain, isolated from mainland Europe, depended entirely on supplies shipped across the ocean. Food, ammunition, tanks, and fuel, every essential for sustaining the fight against Hitler, traveled in convoys vulnerable to the lurking threat beneath the waves. German U-boats prowled the Atlantic in what was known as the Second Happy Time, striking with ruthless efficiency against merchant ships. Radar was still in its infancy, and escort fleets were stretched thin, forced to protect dozens of vessels across hundreds of miles of open water. In this unforgiving environment, the U.S. Navy began to deploy African American sailors in critical roles, despite a deeply segregated military. While often relegated to support positions, many served aboard convoy escort ships as gunners, signalmen, and engine room crews. These sailors faced dual battles, one against the Axis and another against the entrenched racial prejudices of their own Navy. Their presence on these missions was both a test of skill and a quiet defiance of societal limitations. Convoy HX-156, sailing from Halifax to Liverpool, exemplified the stakes. Merchant ships bristled with cargo essential for Britain's survival, while destroyers and corvettes formed a protective cordon. Every ship had a role, every sailor a duty. The North Atlantic was merciless. Freezing winds, rolling seas, and the constant shadow of enemy submarines created an atmosphere where vigilance was the difference between life and death. These sailors were young, often barely out of adolescence, yet their training and discipline would be crucial. The U.S. Navy, though hesitant to assign them to combat roles, began to recognize that the effectiveness of these crews could not be ignored. In the vast expanse of the Atlantic, where U-boats could strike without warning, every hand on deck, every calculated maneuver, and every accurate gunfire volley mattered. German intelligence had been closely monitoring Allied convoy patterns. U-boat commanders, seasoned in the art of stealth and patience, knew that a single, well-placed torpedo could cripple months of supply and morale. Wolf-pack tactics, coordinated attacks by groups of submarines, had transformed the Atlantic into a deadly chessboard where every move carried immense risk. By 1942, the Kriegsmarine had refined its strategy. Submarines would shadow convoys at night, reporting positions and awaiting reinforcements before striking. For the Allied sailors, this meant that the Atlantic was not merely a body of water, it was a theater of constant tension. Every lookout scan, every sonar ping, every depth charge dropped was a calculated gamble against an unseen predator. Weather compounded the danger. Freezing rain, dense fog, and towering waves turned even routine maneuvers into life-threatening tasks. In these conditions, human error could be fatal, yet disciplined crews managed to maintain formation, communicate effectively, and respond to attacks with speed and precision. Black sailors, despite facing discrimination and skepticism from some peers and officers, proved remarkably resilient. On escort ships, they handled gunnery stations, radar equipment, and engine rooms with skill that often exceeded expectations. Their presence on these convoys slowly altered perceptions as German reports began to note the unusual efficiency and calm of certain crews under fire. This growing recognition among Axis forces would plant seeds of anxiety, even fear, as they encountered well-defended convoys time and again. The stakes extended beyond the immediate survival of ships. Each successful convoy represented not just supplies, but the preservation of morale and the continuation of the broader war effort. Every misstep could mean disaster, yet these sailors, black and white, young and experienced, stood shoulder to shoulder, navigating a deadly expanse where the enemy could strike at any moment. The Atlantic, vast and unforgiving, was about to witness a confrontation that would forever challenge assumptions and rewrite the narrative of courage at sea. The human element aboard convoy escort ships was a study in tension and endurance. Life at sea was grueling. Sailors spent hours exposed to icy winds, constantly scanning the horizon for the telltale silhouette of a U-boat periscope or the glint of a torpedo's wake. For black sailors, the pressure was doubled. They were fighting not only against an invisible enemy beneath the waves, but against entrenched prejudice within their own ranks. Yet in the midst of this adversity, camaraderie flourished. Sailors relied on each other entirely. Every watch, every depth charge drop, every course correction demanded trust and cohesion. Tactically, the Atlantic convoys operated like moving fortresses. Merchant ships were arranged in columns, surrounded by a perimeter of escort destroyers and corvettes. Radar and sonar were crucial tools, though imperfect. Sonar operators scanned for the faintest echoes of a submerged U-boat, while gunners prepared for rapid engagement the moment an enemy surfaced. The rhythm of patrols, the timing of maneuvers, and the coordination between ships formed a complex dance that could mean survival or catastrophe. Black sailors manned these critical stations with precision, often under fire, their actions directly influencing the outcome of engagements. Technological innovation played a pivotal role in these confrontations. High-frequency direction-finding equipment allowed escorts to intercept U-boat communications, while depth charges and Hedgehog launchers offered the only means of forcing submarines to surface or retreat. Every tool was a lifeline, yet every malfunction carried deadly consequences. For the Axis, encountering a convoy defended by skilled and alert crews, many of them black sailors who had mastered both technology and tactics, was increasingly unsettling. Reports from captured logs described surprise and frustration at the efficiency and composure of these sailors, who often operated far beyond the expectations of both allies and enemies. Leadership aboard convoy escort ships demanded clarity and decisiveness. Commanders had to orchestrate dozens of vessels across unpredictable seas, making split-second decisions that could save lives or doom an entire convoy. The presence of capable black sailors allowed officers to rely on experienced hands in critical positions, from engine rooms to gunnery stations. Their efficiency under pressure became a force multiplier, enabling commanders to execute complex anti-submarine maneuvers with confidence. From the enemy's perspective, German U-boat commanders were increasingly wary. Encounters with well-defended convoys often ended in frustration, as coordinated depth charge attacks and evasive maneuvers thwarted their assaults. The efficiency and discipline of these crews, including black sailors, disrupted the psychological edge the Kriegsmarine had previously enjoyed. Reports later revealed that Axis officers had begun to note patterns. Some convoys seemed unnaturally alert, and attacks that might have succeeded against inexperienced crews failed time and again. The moral and psychological dimension was equally significant. In a segregated Navy, black sailors had to demonstrate excellence to gain respect and recognition. Each successful engagement, each life saved, became a silent testament to their capability and resilience. Within the ranks, this fostered quiet pride and strengthened camaraderie, while subtly challenging prejudices. Across the Atlantic, their performance was slowly shifting perceptions, proving that courage and skill could not be constrained by race. Technological, tactical, human, and leadership factors intertwined to create a formidable defense. Every sonar ping, every depth charge, every command issued under duress contributed to a growing reputation that would unsettle the Axis. What began as a segregated assignment evolved into a demonstration of professional mastery, turning black sailors into a formidable presence in the Atlantic theater. Their effectiveness would soon reach a point where the enemy could no longer dismiss them, a realization that would have profound consequences in the battles to come. May 29, 1943. The convoy HX-237 cut through the gray Atlantic morning. Merchant ships shrouded in mist, their wakes trailing in the cold water. Black sailors manned their stations with steady hands, eyes fixed on the horizon, every sense alert to the slightest anomaly. Suddenly, sonar operators detected faint echoes beneath the waves. A U-boat had breached the outer screen. Chaos erupted in precise, disciplined patterns. Depth charges were readied, gunners loaded, engines throttled to evasive speed. The German submarine fired torpedoes, streaking through the water with deadly intent, but vigilant lookouts spotted the wakes in time. Black sailors at the gun decks swung into action, returning fire at the submarine's periscope when it surfaced, their training and composure unmatched even under intense pressure. The destroyer escort USS Menges, with a mixed-race crew including black signalmen and engine room operators, coordinated attacks with precision. Orders were shouted over the roar of the engines and the pounding waves. Depth charges exploded near the U-boat, sending geysers of water skyward, the vibrations shaking the hull of every convoy ship. The enemy commander found his vessel under constant harassment, forced to dive and evade repeatedly. This was not a mere exchange of fire. It was a test of nerves, skill, and resilience. The sailors' seamless execution, particularly from those who had long been underestimated, turned the tide of the engagement. The U-boat, once confident in its stalking, now faced relentless pressure, a combination of tactical discipline and human courage that it had not anticipated. As the hours dragged on, the battle intensified. Torpedoes sliced through the icy water, striking cargo ships that shuddered under the impact. Smoke and spray mingled with the Atlantic fog, obscuring visibility and amplifying the tension. Yet the black sailors remained focused, adjusting anti-aircraft guns, relaying sonar information, and maintaining engine output with unbroken precision. Every action was measured, deliberate, and effective. The German U-boat, battered and forced into repeated evasive dives, began to falter. Depth charges exploded close enough to rupture hull plating, forcing it to surface briefly before submerging again. It became clear to the Axis commander that this convoy was unlike others. Its defenders coordinated, resilient, and unflinching under relentless assault. Reports later would describe the palpable frustration and panic among U-boat crews, a recognition that these sailors were far from ordinary opponents. By nightfall, the convoy had largely survived, with only minor losses to the merchant fleet. The U-boat withdrew, its mission incomplete, its crew shaken by the efficiency and bravery of those who had faced them. Black sailors aboard the escorts were exhausted but victorious, their contributions pivotal in safeguarding vital supplies and demonstrating capabilities long underestimated by both friend and foe. This engagement marked a turning point in the Atlantic theater. Axis forces had glimpsed a new reality. African American sailors, trained and tested under fire, could operate with the same skill and tenacity as any other, and in some instances they became the nightmare of the German Naval Command. Their actions not only preserved lives and material, but began to challenge assumptions about courage, competence, and resilience in the crucible of war. The survival of convoy HX-237 sent ripples through both Allied and Axis ranks. Supplies reached Britain largely intact, sustaining critical operations at a moment when every ton of cargo counted. Reports from Naval Command highlighted the precision and calm of the escort crews, noting particularly the effectiveness of black sailors in gunnery, signaling, and engine operations. Awards and commendations trickled in, though recognition often remained muted due to prevailing racial attitudes. The engagement demonstrated the tactical advantage of well-trained, disciplined crews who could operate cohesively under extreme stress. It reinforced the importance of integrating all capable personnel, regardless of race, into vital naval roles. For the Axis, the encounter was a stark warning. The Atlantic would no longer be an arena where underestimations went unpunished. The nightmare that black sailors became in this battle would echo in German intelligence and operational planning for months to come. The long-term effects of engagements like HX-237 extended beyond the immediate battle. German U-boat commanders became increasingly cautious, wary of convoys that had proven difficult to breach. Intelligence reports began referencing crews that operated with unexpected efficiency, a subtle acknowledgement of black sailors' skill under fire. Within the U.S. Navy, the performance of these sailors slowly shifted attitudes. Their actions challenged prevailing biases and laid early groundwork for broader integration in the armed forces. Strategically, the Atlantic theater became less predictable for the Axis, as previously underestimated crews now represented a tangible threat to U-boat operations. The human element, the courage, discipline, and expertise of black sailors had reshaped the dynamics of naval warfare, demonstrating that valor and competence could not be confined by color or circumstance. The story of black sailors in the Atlantic is a testament to resilience, skill, and quiet heroism. In a segregated navy, they faced not only the threat of enemy submarines, but the weight of prejudice. Yet they performed with precision that could decide the fate of convoys and the course of the war. Each sonar ping, every depth charge dropped, and every gun brought to bear became a demonstration of human determination under extreme pressure. Their actions reshaped perceptions, both within the Allied ranks and among the Axis, proving that courage and competence know no color. The Atlantic, vast and merciless, became a proving ground, where skill and discipline triumphed over expectation and prejudice. These sailors did more than survive. They altered the narrative of naval warfare, forcing the enemy to recognize an overlooked force whose efficiency and bravery would haunt the U-boat campaigns for months to come. In the calm after the storm, it becomes clear that history is not only written in strategies and numbers, but in the steadfast resolve of individuals who rise above circumstance. Black sailors in the Atlantic exemplified this truth, their legacy echoing through naval history as a reminder of courage, skill, and the enduring human spirit.